What's going on, YouTube? Cars. We're going to look at Auto World, and I think we're going to do Racing Champions, although they're all kind of intertwined with Johnny Lightning Racing Champions and RC Ertl. Those type of cars, they're all kind of share each other. But I think these are Racing Champions / Johnny Lightning casting. So we're going to look at that. A lot of Novas. 4 different Novas to look at. A lot of General Motors. A little bit of Chrysler. Well, we got a lot of existing castings. A lot of these are the alternate colors that I was not able to get last time I looked at Auto World. Probably a couple of weeks ago to a month. Filling in the holes. I don't collect all of the releases, all the castings. Sometimes I'll forgo a few. Most of the stuff from Auto World, though, I get everything. And, well, I don't think we've seen on this channel. I was trying to go back because it is an older release. I had the white one for a while. I don't think it's been on camera, but I certainly just got the silver one. We're going to look at Supra, so that'll be cool. We've seen that a long time ago on the channel with the mini GT version of the Supra. Car's got the wing, so I think it's the turbo. So we'll look at that. We got a C8, got another C10 square body, and then we got the new Novas, so the Wagon. So let's take a look. Let's get on with some existing stuff. I want to look at the Caddy. I did finally find the blue. Actually, these have been around. They're turning into peg warmers, so I get a few of these, actually. I might bring up the nerve to actually take one apart and customize it slightly, but right now I'm just kind of keeping them because Caddies are great to have in the collection. Always good to have a diecast Cadillac. Really not that many manufacturers making these in scale. I think we'll see more of that as the future progresses. We'll probably see more Cadillacs done, but right now not too many. So, and especially a nice high quality vehicle like this. We still have that newer style tire. It's like a vinyl, very soft. Who knows if it's actual rubber. It's almost like silicone. A little bit softer than the old tire. They're using the older profile that we've talked about. So it fits okay. It doesn't come around the wheel all the way. And there's this flashing. But the car is still crisp. We looked at the orange one last time. We talked about that, so we'll just kind of update ourselves. Very common to have the light blue with the white. So that's cool. Blue dash. They usually do the dash color of the vehicle when they would do the two-tone interiors like this. So it was a red car. They did a white top sometimes with a white interior, but they door panels and the or part of the door panels and the dash would have been the car. Would have been based on the car color. Wouldn't have been an exact match. Would have had their own tone. And you can mix and match. I've seen cars, different colors on the outside. For instance, you get a black car but have a red offset, and then it would have a red dash. So, a lot of ways to do it. Nowadays, everybody wants to do it cheaply, so not a lot of choices. Let's look at the engine. These are, I can't remember, but we're looking at a 75. So, I think last time we talked, I think the 500 wasn't on this one, but I can't remember. Comment below. We talked about how nice it looks in there. It does look good. Front wheel drive car, even though it's a longitudinal axis engine, a lot of front wheel drive cars now horizontal or longitudinal, or yeah, transverse, sorry. So transverse mounted versus longitudinally. Longitudinally, you'd see mostly on real drive cars. Well, they'll put the transfer case behind it to the side with the transmission there, and then they'll run it back up front to the drive axle. Flat floor. Tornado, and for a time Riviera also was like this setup, but in the 60s and 70s, the front wheel drives were Olds and Caddy. Buick kind of tagged along in the 80s. So we looked at this car. I think it's got the same plate, if I was mistaken. Yeah, they're starting to kind of, they used to do version A and B cars used to have different plates. Kind of slowed down on that now. So we saw the Caddy. Back up here. It looks good. I do like the blue. And again, if your store has Auto World, you probably will find this right now on the pegs, just hanging there by itself. So let's move on. Let's look at Challenger. So got two Challengers. Let's look at both of them together. So we got the yellow. So we looked at the gray one last time. Here's the yellow version. A lot of them made, which is good. They're expanding it, you know. I like these cars because I like the cars and I like the manufacturer, Auto World. So not necessary for me to think of it as like, you know, hundreds of these cars in my collection. Just one or two is fine on each casting. So there's the previous, and then they always have this. I'd rather have the pictures for what's coming on the set that you're buying. They'll do the previous one, then they'll have it listed. So it's I think it'd be easier to reference, like, you know, when you turn around like a Hot Wheels or a Matchbox set, they'll tell you what cars are on the back without pictures. I think that makes my hunting a little bit faster. So we looked at that one, and then we'll look at this box art before we bring the cars out. Black one was elusive. I think this was the most popular color when these came out. Release one. Yeah, so it was hanging up. Some of these boxes will get put out after the cars are finally sold out, and they'll have another box and they'll put it out. So you'll see these months away from when they were actually released. So let's look. Got our black one and our yellow. So black is not as much horsepower, even though you can get wide body on the car. They have a scat pack, so still they have like a naturally aspirated larger 8-cylinder Hemi, and then they have a blown Hemi. So, but you could still get an aggressive look. Demon has its own, or Hellcat type of car has its own rims, but yeah, these are very popular. Again, they haven't addressed yet the window issue that I brought up on the other castings. The rest of the car is pretty spot on. We looked at it before. We can see the engine on this one versus the yellow. I think it's different. I can't remember. I think Scat Pack cars, RTs, things like that. I have not opened up the black one yet. Auto World hoods are always stiff. But I think the yellow one's been in my possession for a second. I did gap the tires on this one. As you can see, I put shims. So now we have the correct back spacing now, where my old gray one, I haven't done it yet. And if you want to refresh yourself, you know, it won't look right without the right spacing. Versus, you can see there's no issue with it moving. Focus right there for you all. Fingers are keeping it out of focus. There we go. So, helps the look. The yellow one's cool. As you can see, they paint more of the car versus the gray. If you want to refresh your memory on that. Engine-wise, this one should not be, but looks like they are running a blower on this one. So maybe it's a different package. Not completely. They change these things year to year. Looks like they're using the same, you know, what's offered. So, looks like these are both blown. Did they call out the engine at all? So, of course, we know that Challenger SRT Demon, 6.2-liter supercharged Hemi, 840 horse, 77 foot-pounds of torque. Very big. Hellcat. So, Hellcat style hood is specific Scat Cat wide body, but I believe the cars are 392 RTs, so they are not blown. Although you could always put the blower on the car. And I don't know if you can get it from, just have it installed when you buy it, or you can do it at home. I think they're the same power plants though. But I guess the black's the best, and of course they left on what a lot of the owners do. They leave the protective lip thing that comes on the car when it gets shipped. And they just kind of leave it on there. There's a few of them. There's one that goes like this, and then with the more aggressive splitters, they'll have like a separate cover thing that's yellow. A little bit of ghosting, so a little bit of pullback there, because again, I don't know how much they prime these and prep them. They're doing just black over it, and then they'll do the trim. You'll see how it pulls up on the edges. That's common. That's what happens when it's not completely prepped. They rely on the paint mixture and their chemical process, stuff like that, to minimize that, but they have to kind of keep costs down. And there's our tail, and we can see the yellow. So looks like Florida or Georgia. What are we thinking there? And then California on the other one. Different spoilers. It's cool to see these directly different. I have the purple and the blue. Purple one came with the Hemmings, and then the blue one was, I think, the sister to this, if I wasn't mistaken. And you can see the RT there. Very nice looking car. Very nice looking. The rims on the Demon are cool. Very, very nice. And you can see with the correct back spacing, it makes a difference on the vehicle. Not too difficult. Just got to trim a little bit of plastic tubing and put it back together, and you're ready to rock. I could even paint that black. You wouldn't even know they were there. But I put them on there because I have to remind myself sometimes what I've modified and what I haven't. This car wasn't even drilled out. I just pulled the tires off first, so I had more access to the rims, and I popped the rims off, and ready to the races we were. Okay, so got some of these older castings back. Another one we'll look at, I guess, since we have seen the other one. Let's look at this truck. Of course, my favorite. Now, this is another one hard to find. It's black. It's not the blue and silver. This is an 82. I don't have the 81s yet. I'm going to have to get those online. I think I'm going to have to get them. Never found them out here in the wild. They're always kind of taken before I get there. I've gotten some pretty lucky streaks with Auto World. They don't get put out at the same time like other cars like Hot Wheels and stuff does, so sometimes you get lucky with finding them by themselves on an off day. But so there's our truck, one of 16,904. And again, we're into the square body age that ended at 87, 88. Black with red. So I was kind of talking about that, alluding that when we talked about the Cadillac. This one has the black rims. If we want to compare this to the other one, more of a grandpa style. Two-tone, white walls, silver painted rallies. Matching interior. This one's kind of cool. Definitely a cool truck. Probably why everybody loves it so much. Straight black. 82 grill. And they're calling this one, I think... So it's a Silverado, so that was an upper trim level vehicle. As this one shows the buckets. They really have not changed the interior, back half of the cab, the bed, really from the ones from the 70s. And just the front. Take a look here. I have not touched this truck up. The only thing I did do, again, was shim it. And it looks a lot better. Actually, I've shimmed both of them, so we can see that the ride height's much better, or the back spacing. They are very light on the painting of the black rims, so you'll see a lot of this, a lot of silver in there. I went over it with a little bit of black wash. I'm going to go over it once more. I just wanted to be really careful of not being able to get these center caps. I want to leave them chrome. See if we can get a zoom on that. Dusty. It's been serving pocket duty, as you can see. So that's why it's another reason I get a carded one, because this will wear off, and eventually I have to go in there with a very small brush and fix that. Sometimes they'll serve duty for a little bit, coming along with me, and then they'll get retired to the shelf or fairly fast. And then if it's a very, very, very favorite car, it'll stay in the rotation for quite some time. And that's how it is when you get a lot of vehicles. This is the way it works. And then every so often you'll return to the wall, and there's always a favorite there that you haven't seen for a while, and then that gets put into rotation too. So I always have a mix of old and new going around. And this is just a really cool truck. I think one of my favorites of all of them so far. There's been a few, as we know. There's been a few. We talked about this in length. The casting has not changed. Tires are the same. If you want more information, we've done a lot of these videos. Go ahead back in the search. Look at the channel. And you'll see a lot of square body content. So enjoy. All right, another casting that we've looked at before. Let's get the other color variation out here real fast. Let's drive it over. The C8. So in white, silver wheels. Nothing special. It's not a Z06 car. It's not a ZL1 or anything like that. This is just like what you'd get out of the showroom with a couple of packages, spoiler and things like that. Mid-engine, as we talked about before, we have compared this to the green light. I don't have the Mini GT version. I think I'm going to get one of the versions, one of the colors at least. So, it's our information. C8, we looked at the black one with the green light. There's our information. I like it in white. Looks very good. Very fast car. Great weight balance. We all know about that. We've talked about it before. And they've done a very good job replicating this area here. This is all metal. Hood or bonnet or whatever you want to call it. We have our trunk space behind the engine. There's our engine. It is painted and detailed. Take a look. Another Florida registration. Square exhaust tips. That's how the C8 is. They were promoting the square design of this car. It's got a very square back and front for a sports car. At this magnification, very chunky looking. It's decent though. It's actually not bad. The wheels and tires are superb. They're much better than green light set. There's some failings, big gaps. Not the best. No removable top, which is actually probably a plus or a minus depending on how you look at it. If you have the car around a lot, you'll lose the top if you're using it as a pocket car. Green light does have the top that is removable. It's a little bit more detailed. And of course, they have separate headlights, which Auto World doesn't do that. And I think it's just because they put the money elsewhere and they do a great job really doing the casting justice. If we look at this, even though the paint, it's a little sloppy, the casting is very sharp. Then we talked about this. It's also like the Mini GTs. They do a very good job casting the car. If it was stripped and repainted, the car would look a lot better. You wouldn't see this. You wouldn't have your eyes drawn to these areas here where the paint lifts, gets thin on the edges. Probably could work on the fitment of this too. And once all that's addressed, add a little bit of filler there, get that gap to close. Car look really good. And very sturdy car. It's a very, very sturdy vehicle, very heavy. When we talked about mismatched tires, of course we have staggered tires on sports car like this. This one did appear to have the correct sizes front and back, so I was happy about that. It wasn't like the black one that was, unfortunately, it had three big ones or three small ones and one big one. One of that scenarios was happening with it, so I'm kind of upset. But there it is, white one. I have an extra one of the white because white is my favorite for that car. I think it looks really good. Probably this one, since I have an extra, might paint the wheels black and then touch up all the issues with the trim, you know, kind of showing the white all over in there. So cool car. Very happy to have it. C8s. You know, Corvettes are good. They're good to have all the generations. I'm looking for the 70s and 80s cars. Hot Wheels 100% line from the late 90s, early 2000s. They made an 82 Vet. And actually, when they open the hood, I see some of the advertisements has crossfire fuel injection. So really interested in probably attaining one of those. I could probably find one for $15 to $20 before shipping. And I'd say that'd be okay for new in the box. All right, so now we are on to new stuff for me and for other people too. And then we'll get I guess we'll round it out with some racing champions. I didn't get to those, but new castings. Let's look at the Toyotas first. I have the white Supra and the silver. Release 1 version B and A. And I apologize if we've looked at one of these already, but we'll look at it again. I just could not see and I could not remember looking through the channel if it was posted. So we're going to look at both of them. So I know I got the silver just recently. So Mark IV or A80. Now they did the base style, so naturally aspirated Toyota inline 6. And it's a shame because Toyota made the GR Supra, and we'll probably see that casting come through the channel eventually. I just haven't picked out which one I want. But since Toyota no longer makes really an inline 6 for sports cars and sedans and things like that, they had to go to the only one that makes up-to-date inline 6s, which was BMW. And so the new Supra really has a big joint venture with BMW. But back in the 80s and 90s, inline 6s, Nissan, Toyota, and others all had one. And Toyota probably had one of the most famous ones. You can make huge power with these cars. Very strong. Inline 6s have a great propensity to be very durable because the torque is all in line. So the balance on an inline 6 is very good mechanically, even before you have to introduce anything with counterbalancing. So just a great platform. The only thing about it, they're long, so getting a huge displacement out of them makes them a little bit longer, so you got to kind of watch how big they get. But they get punched out. I mean, they go into 4-liter territory, I'm thinking. So making power on them, I think the choice on these cars are turbos. So factory had a turbo one. The next Supras to come out will have the wing, like the Mini GT, and the different hood. I like the clean look at these. I think they're normally aspirated cars, and they're trying to say this on their card. In Europe, they got the turbos, probably because the car is so expensive already. They might as well just go all the way. But they gave us the option in the left-hand drive cars, like we have in the States, in North America. Very exclusive. They made a lot less of them than the other right-hand drive versions. So United States cars are a little bit more valuable, which is kind of funny. Let's look at this. So clear headlights, a departure. We were just talking about that in the Corvette. So the C8 had painted in details. This actually has headlight. And this car, even though it comes from the 90s, early 90s, 93, 94, very modern looking. Very modern looking car. Classic design, much like the RX-7. The last gen RX-7 before they made the RX-8. That car was gorgeous. Those two vehicles probably were one of the best designed 90s sports cars. They're just a great vehicle. Taillights are amazing. Car had presence because it wasn't tiny. It was like Dodge Stealth, Mitsubishi 3000 GT, those type of vehicles. Mitsubishi GTO for you people overseas. So it had a little bit of presence to it, and it wasn't a tiny car, and it had a lot of power. So just excited, and we can see this motor in here, and it's the, which one are they calling it? I don't think they call it the engine. If it was a 1 or 2 JZ, I can't remember. It's one of those, right? IS 300 also used the inline 6. I think that was one of the last cars I saw from North America that I seen with that motor in it. Just a cool car. I think the white looks great. And we'll look at the magnification. So painted taillights. Hood, the hatch and the doors don't open, but the casting is crisp. You can see how much thicker white paint is than silver. And I think the registration is identical. Yeah. Here's your script. If I had my own decals, I'd strip the paint and file off all the issues with the body and then would look quite nice. As you can see, they are able to tamp all the way in there, so something I can get with a brush if I took the car apart. Filling that in with black would help the detail a little bit. It would make the doors look less thick. But the hood line gap is amazing. Look at the front end. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Front lip on there is pretty. The wheels, these were Toyota wheels. They would have had a little bit more detail here, but these were it. They made them chrome too. Saw that a lot. The rear scoop is there is painted black. So great interior. And there's the white one. So very excited to have the Supra. It's an amazing car. You can get it in automatic and a stick shift. Of course, gotta have the stick, of course. But again, there was automatics, and I can't remember. I think they had at the top that was removable. Looks like it is here. You can see in the real car, by the way, not this one. And they did have the Targa as an option. I can't remember if there was a convertible. And I don't remember. I don't think there was. There might have been aftermarket convertibles, but the Targa, I remember that. So that's kind of cool. Just an awesome car. Really cool. Gone up in value completely. Very, very, very expensive car to get right now. Incredibly expensive for what it is. I mean, what they used to sell for and what they are now, it's incredible. It's like the air-cooled Porsche stuff that's going on. All right, Novas. Let's just do all the Novas. That's what we got left. Supers are gorgeous. Look at these things. So independent rear end, and you can see how far back the transmission goes. So they try to get it back in there for better weight distribution. You got to watch the inline six. They're tall as well as being heavy. So getting them down and low and things like that helps. So there we go. All right. Here's our Supers. Let's put those in the background. And let's roll out some Novas. Let's look at the card art. I finally found the gold one. I had multiple blue ones. Blue ones are all over the place. And so I got a few because it was a great car. And it's the first release of this casting. They're going to do one coming up shortly. It'll have Steelies with it, with dog dishes. They did both these cars in Nova trim. It was a Chevy 2 with Nova. So like Nova was like a trim, I guess, at this point in the game. For the whole Harley, call the whole series the Nova. But so there it is. There's our information. There's the gold. What are they calling this? Saddle tan poly. And there's the vehicles. So more the most recent one that's been released right now. Next one is due. Release 3. I don't think I have any release 3 cars yet. And let's take a look. So, and then we got Azure Aqua Poly. Inline 6s. So we got Chevy's famous inline 6. Good torquey motor. Very good on gas. Of course, 63. They were kind of in and out of a recession by the late 50s. But so compacts were here to stay. All right. The 60s were known, and the 70s known for large cars. But there was a market in the whole world. But there was a market in the United States as well for economy vehicles. And this was one of the better ones. This and the Falcon were pretty well done. This is a little bit less adventurous. Pontiac was actually doing the Tempest at this point, and it was kind of like this size vehicle, but it went in a completely different direction. They had small V8s, and they also had independent rear-end suspensions. Pretty crazy stuff. And they used those early Pontiacs, the 61, 62 cars, for drag racing, because you can combine the 8-cylinder and the light body. So, very deadly. But the Nova and Nova 2 cars, the Chevy 2s, the Deuces, very, very competitive in their own right. They ran wagons and coupes. Wagons sometimes because it was believed the weight was a little bit further back than the coupe would be. So there we go. Let's look at these. Same wheel covers. This one's a solid car. Triple blue. No two-tone. And it's got the blue interior. And then we got the tan with the white top. And this one is very, very period correct looking to me. Both of them look great, but this one with the gold interior and just all the trimmings, it looks amazing. Now this one is fresh to the collection. I've had this one for a little bit of time while I was gathering cars for a single video. Sometimes I'll only get 3 or 4 for a while, so kind of want to get a few together so we can all show them at one time. But just a great detail on this. And of course the casting is fresh right now, so all the details on these first run cars are usually the crispest. You can see the white wall on this is rubbing out because I was, again, pocket duty on that one. Great car to have. A lucky car. So a lot of detail back here, and this is all because Auto World is very, very good at making molds. You can just look at the hinges. The hinges are there with the separation at that small of a size. I'm looking at the point of my X-Acto knife. So amazing. Not a single wasted space on the paint. Look at how tiny those taillights are. We have the silver trim, and then we have the reverse and the stoplight right there. Very crisp. There's no overspray. Look at the paint they did on the bumper. Nothing went to the body. And look at how Chevrolet and the emblem is done on the tailgate. So just really crisp car. Very clear windows, no scratches, no lint. There's no fingerprints on the vehicle. And the paint is applied nicely on this version. Even the white top doesn't have any issues with it. Nice, solid, looks like a piano key. Nice, thick white. No blemishes. So just the fact that the car is assembled very cleanly is pleasing. There is an issue though. Very thick glass, which is nice and clear. But when you have the top where the glass goes into the roof line, you have a thickness right there of the casting that kind of shows up. So your eye is drawn to that a little bit. It also doesn't fit completely flush. You can see the thickness up there if you're looking at the roof line. So I almost feel like I could take it apart, sand it flat, a little bit flatter, and get it up. You'd see that a lot less. But look at this. Look at the pillars. Very clean. Extremely clean. So kudos. Very, very good cars. Here's our chassis. Showing looks like an automatic transmission to me. Back in this time, early 60s, up into early 70s, Power Glide was offered as the base transmission for automatics many times. So you'd see these little inline sixes, automatic, probably have Power Glide in the car, and that was their 2-speed. So it was very durable, a lot of moving parts, but it really tacked out your car quickly. So the only way to get around that is to have an enormous rear end, meaning that you'd have a 2 to something rear end, 2 to 7.3 or 2 to 5.5. 307 would probably be the steepest. But you put these taller gears, 2-speed transmission automatic, so basically 60, 70 miles an hour was really the most you'd want to do. Now, if you bought a 4-speed transmission, you'd have to have stick shift, and that was offered. So I think on this car, 63, I think was the first year for the Deuce. I don't know if 62 was out. Maybe it was 62, but basically this was the first Nova. And V8s. I don't know if V8s were in this car yet. 64 for sure. But certainly people did it. And just an amazing car. Rear-wheel drive leaf spring. You can see right there. And it was unitized with a subframe. So kind of interesting construction methods too. There's our back. Look at that. Just amazing cars. Roll very good. You know, I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to bring the wheels in. As you can see, it comes out a little too far. These early cars did have quite inset wheels and they were skinny. So I think that looks a little bit more accurate. Somewhere between this and a little further out, but not much more. So we'll set that up. I'll probably have to cut the axles down, make them a little bit skinnier, and we'll be ready to rock. So hope you enjoyed those two Novas. And we're going to look at Racing Champions real quick. I think those are pretty neat. But so got the Bill Grumpy Jenkins car. He was a record setter vehicle car, you know, in drag racing. Well known back in super stock days where they have to have sort of a factory setup. And huge casting. It's very big. As you can see, the wagon is smaller than this car is by a big margin. So it's out of scale, but it's kind of a cool car. And I got both of them. This one, the green one, is an early release, and this is most recent. And this is Racing Champions for real, not Johnny Lightning. But they put Johnny Lightning wheels tires on this one, but they'll do the old school axles and tires on this version. So this is the one I thought I was going to get with this one, because I was like, oh, I like the old ones. They were kind of cool. They had the solid tires and stuff, and they look good. And you know, this is a good looking car. It's got the wheel covers a little large. They look a little bit big, but I'm fairly satisfied with that, even though it's a little bit big. This one does have the goofy Johnny Lightning stuff going on here. They needed a steel wheel, so I understand why they did it, but it doesn't work completely because this is chassis really set up for the thicker axles. So, but, and I can probably switch the chassis or whatever, but this one has a really cool livery on it, and it's historic. So, yeah, again, record holder and all that. And it's got those 60s graphics that the guys were running with the stripes and the big call outs for the manufacturer. So cool stuff on this one. Look at all the period graphics on this. So this makes this a really great car. Of course, very famous. 327 or 350 horse is what he's saying there. And they're showing the open kind of engine. There's no... there's an air cleaner. It looks like it's kind of falling off the back. He probably wasn't running an air cleaner like that in real life. You could see this has the SS kind of setup on this car, and you can see the dual snorkel intake in there. Let's see if we can maybe, yeah, we can get kind of a look there. So these are cool cars. They are, again, kind of in their own deal because they're not true 1/64 scale. They're decent. Actually, this is even bigger than the Hot Wheels, and the Hot Wheels Nova is pretty big too. But it does have a great look to it, and it's detailed very nicely. And this reminded me of the Ertl Prestige kind of 1/64 scale, the way it is done. And I think this was like when this was originally done, and we can look at back here. It's probably still in the base. Yeah, from the late 90s. So, but this was like one of their more like premium ones that you'd buy. Same thing, same base. They put the wrong wheels and tires on it, unfortunately. 66 Nova. So that's a good too to have this car out, because we would see the progression of the early 60s car to the later mid 60s Nova. And then of course we saw the 68 through 72. 73 is kind of a change. It was kind of based on the same car, but looked a lot different. It's more kind of chunky looking, I'd say. But yeah, those are some Novas, and we looked at all that. The last batch of cars to get caught up on, M2, and probably, well, there's a lot of M2, so we'll look at some M2, and then we'll probably get cleared out for the new stuff that's going to be coming through, which is exciting. But we looked at some vehicles. Autoworld always is the top brand for me right now, still. Mini GT strong, and of course all the rest, because Greenlight, they're just great cars too. They need a little work, but once I get them tuned up, like this one, we got the ride height. I took the chrome wheels off of it, and I actually broke one of the windows out because it was a pocket car, and I was sitting with my keys in my pocket, and it busted a window. I was like, oh god. So it was a good thing this one I did drill and tap the base. So this is kind of my experimental M-body Chrysler. Whatever works on this car work on everything else I buy. So I did take the windows out, but I can see the interior better. I was able to glue this back. The windshield blew out too. I had to glue the windshield up. So the car went through a little bit of a change. I put the wire wheels back on it. But it's great, you know, brown with the soft top. Can't beat it. So we're always going to the shop, fixing the stuff, but hope you looked at it and liked the vehicles today. And thank you all for watching. I appreciate all the great comments, and I hope everybody's enjoying the vehicles. More to come. Thanks for all the new subscriptions. Put the thumbs up if you like it. And more content in the channel. There's a lot of videos there on other cars that you might be interested in that have been released in the past. So enjoy the archive, and more videos to come. Till next time.